I normally save these kind of unscripted videos for updates and, sorry, cooking me some lunch, for updates and story, like my Uber stories and that, these unscripted, thought of kind of things. But this time, there's a lot of stuff on my mind that has been on my mind for coming up on 2 months now. And I would like it to be scripted, but I find it's better to just kind of talk to you guys. In my last update video, I told you guys that my fiance and I had broken up. And as a result, I had to move in with my parents, and I had to take a lot of hits. The 3 videos I had promised I was working on, I haven't been working on. Mostly due to the fact that I don't know if I can justify trying to make YouTube videos while I am in such a state of complete and utter, I guess unrest would be the word. When it comes to relationships, up until my ex-fiance, I was largely unexperienced. Let's not mince words here. She was my first long-term relationship. When her and I got together, I was skeptical that we were going to even last. It was a long distance relationship, of which I had quite a few, and they had all ended fairly quickly. Unsurprising to nobody. They ended in quite the, what's the word I'm looking for? They ended in quite the predictable pattern. In a long distance relationship, you can't touch each other, you can't be there with each other. Your dates consist of choppy Skype calls, or nowadays you might use Discord because it is the clearly better alternative. But long distance relationships are very hard to maintain. And so, at 3 months into our relationship, I was quite happy when my mother decided to move from California to Kansas. Because Kansas, or the city in Kansas with which I would be residing, was going to only be 3 hours away from her. She was in Missouri, so you can imagine that this gave me a new kind of spark of hope. The fact that we even made it 3 months is amazing, because my longest relationship before her, well, it lasted 3 months, and that was a long distance relationship too. I can never find women who like me in my area. Figure that one out. I guess I just have the better online persona. Regardless, meeting her in person for the first time was it was an experience. The first time I got to see her, my heart filled with this burning, like, sensation. I wanted it so bad to, it's like, for a moment, we both just froze. And then we embraced and we hugged, and I felt a love there that I had never before in my life felt. And at the time, she did too. About another year or so went by of us being long distance, but not as long as before. 3 hours is very manageable, especially when you both have a car. Well, for a long time, only she had a car. And we got to see each other about once a month, which was hard, but it felt worth it. A year and a half into our relationship, January 2018, we moved into a duplex together. Little one bedroom, 450 square feet, tiny ass, not barely big enough for me, her, our cat, and our little 9-pound yapper. And I was working a job at the time, which I've told a couple of stories about the job at hotel industry, which, that fell through. Not because of my incompetence, although that, I am quite incompetent, but because I began to discover that it is very difficult for me to handle a lot of stress. Over the course of the year, I ended up quitting my job, which paid a hefty $13 an hour. And instead, I went and worked at Uber, which is where the Uber stories start. Uber is not as lucrative as it seems. Sure, you're bringing in about $500 a week, but probably a good $200 to $300 of that goes toward car maintenance and gas and just all sorts of stuff like that. So in the end, you're not really bringing in that much money. And you're going to hear me mention the money a lot because this is all going to come together at the end. So eventually, in the most recent October of 2018, I got in a car accident, which I spoke a little bit more about in one of my update videos. And that's when our relationship started to suffer. Shortly after the accident, I began having seizures. These seizures were quite violent, and they would happen anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day. After a very long time of fighting with her, I eventually went to the hospital. Now, the truth of the matter is that I have a large phobia of hospitals. I am quite terrified of them. They give me anxiety of which the likes you've never seen before. And all in all, I'd rather die than go to the hospital. But I went, and eventually, After 3 days in the hospital, they discovered that my seizures were stress-induced. This is where the problem began. This is where the real crux of the issues began. I believed with every fiber of my being that I would not be able to work. And that may still hold true. We've yet to see. I told myself I was going to apply for disability with the hospital documents, and we did get that process started. Unfortunately, very shortly after my stint in the hospital, within a month, Fly and I broke up. 2.5 years, completely gone. So what have I been thinking about for the past X amount of months? What has been on the mind of your favorite unpopular YouTuber? Is it, fuck that bitch, can't believe she did that to me? No. Is it, oh my God, what am I gonna do now? Might have to kill myself. No. What has been on my mind for the last almost 2 months is what I could have did better. And it wasn't until recently that I realized I had every reason to stay with her, and she had none. No matter how much she might have loved me, she did what she did for her own sake. Last night, I had a paranoia break as a result of one of the medications I've been given for my mental disorders. And in doing so, I accused her of a lot of things I'd rather not repeat, and possibly ruined our friendship. Whether or not she accepts my apology is yet to be seen, but what I will tell you all is this. The lesson I learned from this entire ordeal, the biggest one I can pass on to you all: look at your own flaws. Do not believe that the other person is 100% in the wrong. Do not believe that you were perfect, but also do not take it so far that you hate yourself. I could have did a lot of things differently. I could have kept looking for a job. Yeah, maybe nobody would want to keep me, but at least I'd have that documentation. I'd be able to say, look, I got fired because of my seizures. Then this disability thing might not take 8 to 12 months. I might have a stronger case. I don't even know if I'm going to win. So I'm looking for a job now because I have to. Because I don't know what the government's going to do. Because stress-induced seizures doesn't sound like a disability. Not on the surface anyway. So I'm just going to have to bite the bullet. And I should have did that long ago. I should have did a lot of things. I never should have quit Marriott. I should have stayed at a job where I made $13 an hour. That would have improved our lives significantly, and maybe this would have never happened. And I'm not saying she broke up with me because I didn't have money. She wasn't that shallow. But the fact of the matter is that what was on her shoulders was a lot more than what was on mine. She had to deal with the bills, with the car, with the gas that she had to pay for. She had to deal with so much, and she never felt like she could talk to me. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's her upbringing. Maybe that's just who she is. There's no telling. I know what I should have did better, and that's what I'm going to do better from now on. But the other thing I want you guys to take away from this is that you cannot play shoulda, coulda, woulda for too long. You have to move on with your life. I may have destroyed my friendship with her because I couldn't control my impulses. And that's going to be my fault. But I'm not going to let that stop me from moving on with my life and making it better. It can always get better. And I've been deeper than this before. I've hit rock bottom before. The one thing I want you all to remember, please, is to work on yourself so that when you find that person that truly makes you feel like you can beat everyone together, you don't fuck it up the way I did. I believe in you guys. I love you all. Thank you so much for sitting with me for 16 minutes while I just rambled on. And remember, stay shiny.